one, guys. We are into chapter 3. It takes 2 to tango. I say best for last. You know why, Omid? Because every single one of the panelists have a business partner, as mentioned in the beginning. And there's a lot of, again, healthy debate that I want to bring up. Because there's some panelists here, guys, who you know damn right who their partner is. There's other panelists who, it's okay, they have a partner and they want to hide behind the scenes. They're okay with that. And I want to bring that up. I want to know the certain nuances, the formula, the strategy behind why maybe one partner gets more attention than the other, how both of you have managed to work effectively with one another, some of the battles that you face along the way. And I'm going to start off with Omid asking the first couple questions before we get there.
Yeah, so before we get into that, this is a question for all you guys, and we'll just start off one by one. But what is your anchor? Now that could be personal or it could be business related, but what is your anchor? What keeps you grounded every single day when you go into your businesses, when you're interacting in your personal life, relationships? What is that for you?
This might be cliche, but it's definitely our customers. It feels weird to call them that because we have such strong relationships with them now. But absolutely, like the students, like we've got about 12 or 1,300 people come in every week to take lessons, and many of them have been with us for years, and now we've developed really close relationships with them, best friends type of thing, and they're kind of like extended family. And seeing the experiences they do, whether it's a big show or it's them getting in the studio or just the conversations that we have with them, that's really what ends up driving me a lot of the time, is I don't want to let them down. At the same time, it amounts to a lot of pressure because the more people you have, the more that are relying on you and all those sorts of things. So there's more pressure that you really don't want to fail. But just looking at that, whether it's like watching recap videos of events that we've had, or reading some of the stories or posts, or like letters that some students will send in, things like that, that's for sure what kind of keeps me grounded and going and motivated, is because I feel like I owe it to them to sort of set that example of growth and improving, and that their experience and their relationship is something that could be so special to them. I have a big part in making sure like what that's sort of like and catering properly, so I feel like I owe it to them all the time to give them the best possible experience that we can in that sense. So that's sort of the case for me anyways.
I feel like any other answer you say, you're just gonna look like a bad guy after that one.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, those are great. I agree 100% to all of those, but I think for me too is I honestly don't know what I would be doing if I wasn't doing some sort of startup, whether it's with meal prep or another venture. I just think maybe my dad was an entrepreneur as well. He always wanted me to go to school, the importance of university and everything. But after all that, he always talks about how he hates university, how he thinks it's ridiculous. But I think it has a little bit to do with your parents, and then just honestly, I don't know what I would do. I think I would be bad at everything else. So.
I look at it as I cannot fail anymore. Just because I hated my job so much, and I actually gave it up 2 years ago and went to do Revival full time. So looking back, I'm like, if I was to go back to work, I wouldn't even know where to start. Literally giving up everything that's, it almost hit the soft spot, because I'm just 2 years ago, I was I hated going to work so much. And now I look back, I'm like, okay, I can go do my thing and love what I get to do every single day. That's what keeps me grounded, and the fact that I used to sell apparel out of my trunk, a couple hats at a time or whatever it is, and now we are shipping out orders daily. Not just in Edmonton, we're shipping across the country. We've shipped to Australia, Singapore, and we're just a little brand out of Edmonton, and the feeling of the people actually love what we offer as products and apparel. Anybody can create apparel nowadays. You can just order stuff on Amazon or whatever it is, slap your label on it. But the fact that people are coming to me and they actually want to buy my shit, it grounds me every single day. And the fact, just to that, I'll go to work every day, grind every day until 2 in the morning, whatever it is, and I'll keep going until this thing, no more. But I think right now, that's what keeps me grounded and moving.
My answer is totally different, Kenny. the things that keep me grounded are the things outside of work, which doesn't mean I don't love what I do. I love what I do, and I love coming to work and all of the positive things that come with that. But the things that anchor me are coffee in the morning, good sleep, exercise with people that motivate me. Where's Troy? Niku. People that motivate me. That's things that fuel my spirit, which I think lends itself to say, if you take care of yourself, you're likely to be anchored and therefore can take care of others. That's my simple answer.
Good answer. I would have to say having an attitude of gratitude. I say this a lot, and Sean kind of touched on it earlier. The 5-minute journal, being grateful, and just the clients as well, right? Obviously, my clients keep me going, and they, on days when you're just like, oh my God, what did I do? Why did I do this? That's when you get those messages like, wow, like just because of you, I just sat up for 10 seconds unsupported, or But for myself, I try to remember to be grateful, because you can get so wrapped up in your own problems in your own head, and like when you're running a business, there's so many outside factors too that you have to be aware of, and the stress levels are very high. But stress is what put me in a wheelchair, and so I take my stress levels very seriously. So in order to reduce them, I live a life of gratitude, and I'm grateful for my hands. I'm grateful to be able to breathe on my own. I'm grateful to be able to eat on my own. I'm grateful to be here, and you guys will be going in my gratitude journal today. And I think if you have an attitude of gratitude, then life is a little bit simpler. You focus on the right things that you're supposed to focus on, and the other problems will just kind of work themselves out.
Thanks, Bean. My second question is, again, for all you guys. A lot of people, especially maybe in this room, I know some guys who've started side hustles and now are looking to start their own business. What are some of the best practices for someone who's working in corporate or working a 9-to-5 to transition out and fully take the plunge? What's maybe one thing?
Get fired. That was my case.
Okay.
Yeah, don't take that advice. Someone else give a better answer than that.
Hold on. So you got fired?
Yes.
That's and then?
Kind of, sort of.
And then you went home and what?
And then went on one of those cliche find yourself trips. I went to the other side of the world.
Where?
New Zealand.
New Zealand?
Yeah. Pushed myself sort of out of the box, said
Yeah.
yes to everything, tried to connect the dots and figure out what my next sort of thing was. In that case, I didn't want to. It was another sort of partnership adventure that went sideways, and my life was sort of turned upside down very quickly. And in that case, I never wanted to give that kind of power to somebody over my life again. And also, I never wanted to assert my authority in that way over somebody else again. And this idea that it's not personal, it's business. That's ridiculous. It's one thing. People's livelihoods. A lot of times they rely on you where they work and things of that nature. So just wanted to sort of shift that. In that sense, so mine was a lot more sort of abrupt, I guess, in that sense. There wasn't we had the production company before that, which we had on the side while I had a full-time job. So that eventually came into the full-time setting, I think, partially out of whether it was necessity or that was sort of the best option at the time. It ended up making sense once you connect the dots later on, but in the moment you don't really know. So
yeah, and I remember when we were talking on the podcast, you mentioned how you went on this trip and then you came back and immediately you and Justin went in and found a lease and went just full on into it. Almost you didn't have time to think. In a sense, it was just like, okay, well, I got to do this. Let's do it right now, and you guys opened the doors.
Yeah, it was super quick. So when I came up with the idea, it was in May of 2012, and we were open in September 2012 with a 11-room studio and 15 staff and about 50 students really quick. And before that, hadn't really run a business. I'd been in like management types of positions, sales types of positions, and had never worked in the industry outside of just, recording some clients and producing for them. So it was an entirely new realm. So you rely heavily on the people that were there, but yeah, it was too fast in a lot of ways because there wasn't a lot of time to you had to figure out really, really quick. So we made a shit ton of mistakes, early on, but you just try to learn from them and grind. So we basically just let a massive fire under our asses, so we had no choice but to make it, because every month could have been the last month. So fortunately, we're still here. But
that was going to be my question to you. Like, you've launched so fast. I guess if you look back on it, do you wish you could have, maybe done it with more planning, or would you have done it differently?
I'm not much of like I try not to
Yeah.
go on the regret side of things, and because like you said, as being business owners, you're constantly living in the negative all the time. Your job is to look at everything that needs to be improved and everything that's wrong all the time. So you're naturally just putting yourself in that negative energy. So you're trying to find out ways to combat it, because if you just sit there and think about all the things that are great, then that's when you're going to start to sort of level off and start to go the wrong direction in that sense. So I try to look at it and say, like, if I asked myself 7 years ago, if I could tell them, like, okay, if you go on this path, this is where you're going to end up. Here's all the good things that are going to happen, but here's all the bad things that are going to happen, because naturally there's stuff that ends up happening, whether it's relationships with friends, family, partners, things like that deteriorate over time based on what direction you're going. You never know what it's going to be, knowing the stresses that are going to be on your life, those sorts of things. And, for me, definitely the answer is still yes, for sure. It's a resounding yes. So in that sense, I mean, it would have been nice for sure. I look back at some of the things we did, the choices I made, the mistakes we made, and think like, oh my God, like I can't imagine doing that right now. But that's the best teacher, going through those experiences, having those panic attacks, not knowing whether you're going to be open. That's when it is, you internalize it and it becomes very real, and you make sure you don't make those mistakes again. And when you're forced to learn quickly, you'll grow quickly in that sense too, I think. But yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Mike. Going into the next part, I'm going to put Steve on the spotlight here. And when you look at what Steve's doing, Steve is somebody who, with Revival, when I walk into a fitness gym, majority of everybody I see, they're wearing Revival. It's awesome to see. Steve is somebody where, with Revival, I walk into an MMA gym, and I'm like, oh wow, look at all these people wearing Revival. Third target segment, I'm on the street on a Saturday night on White Ave, and I see this, so kind of like juicy guy, he's got big muscles, he's got his girl, he's holding her real tight. He looks like he's just jacked up, right? He's all fired up. And I approach him, he's wearing Revival. And I'm like, hey man, like, how did you hear about Revival? And he's like, oh man, me and my boys in Fort Mac, we support Steve. And I'm like, man, that's awesome, right? Like, I'm just saying, it's great. Now, from a commerce perspective, from a marketing major perspective where I come in, I was taught in school, target market, focus on your target market. That's great and all. But when I see someone like Steve locally, look and see what he's done. He's targeted everybody. The juice monkeys, the Fort Mac guys, the MMA fighters, the list never ends. And I want to know, Steve, is this something, honestly, was this something that you planned, where it was like, okay, one by one, or did you kind of, in terms of advertising, did you do a campaign to get everybody going, or did you start seeing the trends pick up and you were starting to realize these are the guys buying my product, and did you cater to the majority? So what did it look like? Who was controlling that situation? Was it you seeing what the trends were and who was buying it and you catered to it, or were you like, fuck it, let's do this for everybody?
So a little background story of how this all started. I was like 140 pounds when I started this brand. Skinny Asian dude in a market where it's dominated by jacked up white guys. Right. So right away here, I started selling to hats to everybody, but the majority of them are jacked up white dudes, and I didn't fit in. But as things go, we're like, okay, this is our market, so let's keep pushing it to the same people. And then we realized that the bodybuilding world is very small. And as you can see, 4 years ago, bodybuilding was a huge phenomenon. Everybody was competing. And nowadays, the target audience has gotten way smaller. The shows have gotten smaller. And so you got to adjust. And as time went on, we were like, hey, you know what? Who's buying our stuff? It's not just these guys anymore. It's people who have fallen in love with the story itself of like why we're even called Revival. And we get audiences, guys, girls, whatever it is. And we even had mostly a lot of girls buying unisex clothes from us. Men's tees became started calling unisex. And then so we started adjusting that way. And then we started seeing the way I design products is what would I wear? And you're not gonna cater to the masses because everyone has different style. Clothing is just a weird thing that you can walk in a store, you can see somebody has like 5 same people have the same clothes, and then the next day that nobody wants it anymore. So you just gotta keep evolving. We watch the trends. I don't know. I have kind of an eye for it, but also I would essentially look at the things that I would do myself. Like you just can't you can't create it for everybody. And for me, what happened with the brand is that I created staples, and that was way easier. Like everyone's gonna wear a hoodie, everyone's gonna wear a t-shirt, and then from there on, once you have your target audience, then start building from there. We started getting into like crop tops this year. We've been asked that for 4 years to build crop tops, and finally we're like, you know what, let's do it because we have the target audience for it. Even tank tops. It was t-shirts, hoodies, and hats for the last really 4 years of the company. And this year has been the biggest growth year we've ever had. I'm expecting even to double from last year into this year, and that's where the brand's going to now. Like everyone tries to, I think the term is like boil a seed. When they come out with a clothing brand, everyone wants 10 new products. They want 20 new things in a year afterwards. That's not how it works. Once you hit the basics, then grow from there, and then you need the audience for it too.
I love that. I really like that. You know what I got out of that, Steve, is it's really two things, right? You mentioned to us, what would I wear, right? You did that mentality on top of what is the majority of your audience saying. Sticking to those two things is very important, especially for us, right? I want to know who is actually listening to our stuff and what they want to hear, especially for what your consumers want to wear from your brand, labeled as Revival. And second to that is I realized that, especially I'm going to be biased in our 20s, what we want to wear today might have been different from what we wanted to wear 2 years ago. In terms of style, in terms of trends, we're picking off of what we like now. And what I like about that is that allows me to look at my first episode we did on the show, or just anything I've done in the past couple years, and accept that if I don't like how it turned out now, I can realize that I'm kind of growing. You're growing with your brand. And you realize that now what you're going to be offering is something that you like now. And that might be different even 6 months later.
Yeah, just to add to that, like, if you create a brand for yourself, or just create a brand and you slap a label on it, if you wouldn't wear it in public, nobody else will. You're your own billboard. So that's what I look at. Like, you'll rarely, unless I have to be suited up like Kenny right now and looking fresh like that, rarely will you catch me with a piece of RVL on me. Like my parents even see it. They're like, man, like, put on something nicer today. I'm like, no, gotta walk outside with our own stuff.
Exactly. And now here's the interesting thing. Perfect transition. Someone like Steve, as you guys can see, he actually is his brand. So when you look at Steve Liang, he is Revival Apparel. He does his best to take his personal brand and he associates it with Revival. And I understand there's some panelists here who might differ. Maybe you like the idea of separating Raj Dillon from Pivotal Physio. Maybe you like the idea of realizing that, okay, you want to have your business speak for itself. You don't want a name attached to it. So I want to kind of create healthy debate for everybody here. And whoever wants to start, maybe it's even Steve, if you want to elaborate on that, why you feel like it works to your best ability to, when you get the chance, have your name attached to your brand. When you associate yourself as, client-facing and being the image, and how that's worked in your favor. And for others, how you feel about keeping it separate and why that works for you and why you do that.
So, starting with that, it's like, I feel like social media, and even the word entrepreneur is so glorified. So what I did with the Revival is I created a story brand. Outside of RVL, people have kind of fallen in love with why I'm doing this, because everyone can slap a label on a t-shirt, call their brand, try to sell it online, and do some social media stuff with it. But with Revival, I'm I'd say a living proof of what I'm doing, right? I'm an entrepreneur, and living this Revival life, and this is my own story of, I'd say the Revival story. And that's where I think it excelled. We're just not just anybody else that just threw a label on something.
Absolutely.
I have to add to that, Steve. So we met today for the first time in person, right? But I've followed you before, and I've followed your brand, and I like it because of your tagline: "Work hard, stay humble," right? And that's you. That's who you do. That's what you do.
Thank you, Rush.
So your tagline, I think, is what makes it more attractive. The brand itself, the clothing is attractive, but then your tagline makes it emotional. It makes people feel something. Because the t-shirt is a t-shirt, but the tagline makes people feel something. So now they feel connected to a message. That's what brings people together for your brand.
No, exactly. I agree with that. And like a lot of things, you know, I love when people come and approach me in the street because, you know, I tell this everywhere, like I'm a nobody. You know, I'm just a guy that created a brand that, you know, I'm passionate about, and the fact that people come up and talk to me about it and, you know, tell me about my life sometimes it's kind of rewarding, and just you know, it's cool to see people want to wear my stuff. I tell this to everybody. It's just a piece of clothing, but the fact that people are drawn to the message behind it and why we're doing what we're doing is, I think, more important.
No, that's definitely fair. And then, again, to differ, right? Now we look at someone like Sean Chai, right? He's somebody who, funny story here, this is a true story, guys. When Sean was building a lot of marketing for his brand, he wanted to create a lot of nice, raw, professional photos. And he probably did like a 3-4 day photo shoot with me, KB, Danny on some days. And I'm telling you, over 5 times, more than my one hand can count, people were going up to me and KB, people were going up to Danny, and they were like, man, sick idea, man. Like, you guys, Mealcraft, I see it. You guys are like MMA healthy. I love it, man. And then Sean's like, dude, like everyone thinks it's your brand, but like he didn't mind it, right? So it's interesting to see that someone like Sean, he could easily be in front of the camera, he could easily be the model himself, but I want to kind of see what the other side looks like. It's great to see someone like Steve who, Steve, you're a lot like me, I'm the same way, you know, like you create something and you want to be in front of the camera and you want to show that you love your brand. How about you, Sean? Why is it that you stay behind the scenes, and how do you think that betters your business and Mealcraft speaking for itself?
So I mean, to touch on those photo shoots, so I brought Kenny along, and we're trying to like get the shots and everything, get the nice drone shot, but I turn to my photographer and all I hear is, hey guys, one more of me, and then he's just posing. I'm like, Kenny, come on, we gotta get this going, and the photographer's just like, oh, he just wants more shots of himself, and Kenny's just posing against the wall, like doing the model poses and stuff. So, but that's Kenny for you, that's why I love him. Yeah, so sorry, the question was, why do I separate myself from my brand?
Yeah, like in terms of strategy, in terms of you sticking with that theme?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the way I see it with Mealcraft, it's the business is designed for busy individuals, busy professionals. I mean, there's a lot of demographics we like to target. You know, the fitness enthusiast, the everyday, so you want to call average Joe, the, you know, business professional. So I felt like, you know, Mealcraft isn't my face, it's the face of all those individuals, whether it's, you know, a MMA fighter like KB or Kenny or Danny, or a lip boxer like Danny, or it's a, you know, business professional like my friend TJ or something. So I really wanted to capture a lot of these people in their element and how we can fuel their lifestyle with, you know, fully prepared meals delivered to their door. And also too, I don't know, I've never like to be in front of the camera too much. I've always wanted to, I don't know, I don't take a lot of pictures, and I just thought with my business too, I wanted it to not that it would be about me, but I just didn't want any, like my face attached to it. I wanted the business to be itself, and I wanted Sean to be Sean, so.
It's a damn shame when you're that handsome, man. I'm telling you, it's a damn shame. Thank you for sharing though. Something I want to add, guys, as we conclude, before I pass the mic to Raj to also conclude, is I hope you all realize that out of the 3 chapters today, it was never just choosing one over the other, right? I didn't want everyone to come here today and think that they were going to get some secret formula as how they should go back and run your business, or how they should go back and go about your life even. I want you to understand that when you look at chapter 1, business versus passion, have both. Have that passion, have those set of business skills, get an idea of both. I hope you understand that you got a little bit of differentiation here. For chapter 2, I want you to understand that, you know what, challenges are going to come. I've met a lot of friends along the way who had great ideas, wicked ideas, and then they just never did it. They never did, and I asked them, well, why didn't you do it? And they just felt like it was going to be too damn challenging. And number 3 is, it takes 2 to tango. I want you to realize that, you know what, with business partners there, whether they're in the shadows or whether they're with you every step of the way, understand that as long as you guys communicate with one another day in and day out, and you don't give up because of the conflict you have with one another and you stay on the same page, Every single day, it's going to be, a slow climb forward. And as you heard from everyone here today, we've had some of you who've been in the business for years, some of you for 2 years, and you heard from every single one of our panelists that you're going to be struggling every day. My mom and dad were business owners, and every day they brought the business home, and as much as there were wins, there were losses too. But again, you have to have that specific type of personality in order to run a business. And I know every single one of these guys have that. So can we please, everybody, give a big round of applause for every single one of them coming here. That was amazing, by the way, honestly. Like, I dreamed of this moment. And just seeing this live is amazing, I swear to God. If I could get Raj, I know, so Raj is funny. Omid and I called every single one of these guys. And we had a personal chat, 1 week out. We actually originally, I'll tell you guys honestly, we got everyone together and I was like, guys, you know what? Each of you, you're gonna have 10 minutes. You're gonna talk. And then I realized after I did that a few weeks, I kind of touched base with everybody and all the panelists were like, okay, yeah, we're just gonna talk about whatever we talk about. And then I realized, okay, Kenny, you gotta take a back step. You gotta create a theme, you gotta set the questions. Omid and I went each to like at least 5 networking panels out there. And we got an idea of what it looked like. So we realized we had to go back to the drawing board. And I talked to every single one of them, and it was great. I got some feedback. I got some questions to ask. We created this, structure. Then when I asked Raj, out of all of them, he said, you know what, just make sure I talk last. And just 2 things. I want to focus on, preparation and whatever else. We'll just let it flow. And you've done a great job of doing so, Raj. And I now want to leave the floor open before the 3rd draw prize, because there's 3. I want to leave the door open for you before question and answer, because you guys deserve to ask some questions too. To say whatever you want to say, to ask any of the other panelists questions. You have the floor, Raj.
That's a lot of power and a lot of responsibility. So now I feel like I have to make it really bold and really impactful so that everyone's like, wow, he had some magical words to say. And I don't know that will happen, so let's try something simpler. I think one thing we didn't touch on today, but maybe went without being said, and now we'll say it, is, how do we define success and how do we define leadership? I think that it's important to, within our businesses, within our lives, we touched on attitude of gratitude and things like that, but have a desire to influence others in a positive way, which might be social, it might be health, it might be fitting them well with apparel so they look good and feel good. Like, as funny as that sounds, that's going to increase their confidence. So like, have meaning and purpose to whatever brand or company you're running that is bigger than yourself and bigger than just making money, although that's important too. Have a desire to make impact elsewhere. That's my message. We're going to stay, right? So if anybody wants to have, are you going to open the floor?
Absolutely,
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Thank you for that, Raj. It is at this time, ladies and gentlemen, where I want to thank you guys. This would not be possible without the at least 40 people in attendance tonight. I really hope you all enjoyed everything that we had to say today. I really hope that you guys all come back. For our first 30 guests that came, everyone kind of got a little goodie bag. I hope you realize that there's still some cards left for you to grab. Everyone inside your bag, you have a free complimentary coffee beverage from El Centro. And as well, please, if anybody wants to come back and enjoy coffee, come back, check this place out. Go on a date, take your significant other, bring your friends here. As well, if anybody needs any music advice or anything along the lines of that, you have Big Music Corporation here. These guys do birthdays, they do weddings, they do networking events, you name it. So they're the guys to go to. In the next 30 minutes, guys, we're at about 8:30 here. We're gonna give the draw prize. We're gonna open up for Q&A, and then we're all gonna stick around till around 9 o'clock for anyone to join us for a drink, okay? So here we go, Omid. It's on you, buddy. Wiggle those fingers, buddy. All right, guys, just so you know, the 3rd draw prize, this is really exciting. I thought it was a really neat thing for Mike to do. This winner is going to win 4 free music lessons. So if the kid in you who always wanted to learn drums or guitar, like me, I hope I won, and you wanted to go learn the best music lessons in town, then You're gonna be able to do that Resonate on top of a free recording studio, right, Mike? So they get to come.
3 hour in the studio and then 4 lessons too.
Awesome.
And
So
even
what-
if it's not the kid in you.
Exactly. And I'm really hoping whoever wins, please like text me and I could go with you for that recording studio. Like, let's grab drinks, let's have a rap session or something. I'm down. So without, oh, wow, okay, now I know this is gonna happen. Without a doubt, let's bring my boy Seth Johnstone to the floor. All right, thank you guys. So, Q&A, guys. Q&A. It is at this point in time, we're going to take the next 15 minutes. For anybody and everybody, raise your hand. I'm going to pass the mic to you. You're going to ask a question either to all the panelists or to one specific panelist, okay? And we'd like to open the floor. Who would like to ask the first question? And any question, guys, anything. There's no stupid question in here. Oh, yes. Gagan.
This question is for Raj. If you could be stranded on an island with any 4 people around the world, who would you choose and why?
It's so easy, Guggen. You set me up with my 4 kids.
No.
It's too easy.
No, that's so cliche. No, you can't choose your.
Okay,
you can't
so
choose
non-family.
No.
Non-family.
Yeah, 4
Okay.
like resources. Like, you know,
Resources?
No, like people who could actually make your time on that island and be able to survive. And be able to the good vibes.
Yes, Gagan just said the slogan for the first time.
Okay, so 4 people that are going to have influence on me and with whom I can survive. Michael Jordan, because I think it's important exercise. And if you're going to do it, you might as well play against Michael. Not Rachel, not Lee. No. I think it's important to have some intellectual play, so maybe Malcolm X. Some healthy debate, a little fire, some leadership qualities. There's probably something to rub off there. I think that's a good one. Penelope Cruz is pretty beautiful. Let's add her to the island of 4 influencers. Who else? I need a chef. Antonio from El Centro. There's the 4th.
All right, next question. Yes, come over.
First off, I just want to say I commend all of you. Wonderful panel. And Second Floor podcast, really great job. This is a question for everybody. If each of you can provide one takeaway for all of us, what would it be?
Never give up. Whatever obstacle you're facing, whatever problem you're facing, whether it be business, personal, whatever, just know that you will get through it, things will get better, and you can't ever give up. We come close to wanting to give up on ourselves all the time, and especially in a day and age where like the suicide rate is really high amongst teenagers, amongst people with disabilities, amongst a lot of people, adults with depression. It takes one wrong thought for you to end up giving up on yourself. And I really think you need to look at perspective makes a big difference in this. Know that there is always somebody who has it worse than you, and know that you will get through it. And then you have to look inside yourself and find that spirit, find that light, and never let it go out.
Be like Bean.
Create a vision and follow it. There's so many times that you can just deviate off course, but that's the one thing I did from start. I was like, I knew what I wanted out of this company, and I'm just following through. I know a lot of sacrifices in between, but this is what I want to do. So that's it.
Surround yourself with people who you want to be like. I'm sure you guys have all heard the same, but be the dumbest person in the room. Like, surround yourself with the smartest people you know. Surround yourself with people whose values, characteristics that you do treasure. And I truly believe you do make up, whether it's 3 or 5 of your closest friends, because those people are gonna really mold who you are and who you will be.
Yeah, I guess a couple things. One, obviously we need to make money to have our businesses function, but I would try to say that profit should be a result but not your reason for doing business. Whatever you're going into, if you're only going into it for money, you're almost certainly going to fail. It'll be a disaster. So you have to have some sort of deep care for the work that you're doing, and also in the way that you said, surround yourself with good people and good things. Be ruthless with cutting out the people and the things that aren't good for you, that are negative, that are not people who are being accurately critical, who are going to help you. You don't want everyone to just be kissing your ass all the time and tell you, oh, this is the best idea ever, you've got to go with it. Doubters are a good motivation, but people who unnecessarily pull off you for no reason, you've really got to be ruthless, I think, with cutting that stuff out, because it will have such a big negative impact on you ongoing. So I guess those 2 things. You only asked for 1, but there you go.
Thank you.
I don't have question. I just have can I ask you about that? If you win a lotto max or something like 1 point something billion dollar, and you wanna choose a person who is trustworthy. Trust, I think the word trust. But in these days, in this technology, why we need the person who trusts on person we can trust? Because we can check everything if someone's doing wrong and anything else. Why we need the person who is trustable? Is it important to get a person who is only trustable or not, instead of we need a person who is hungry for money, he has nothing, he just hungry for knowledge and hungry for money, and find that person instead of finding the person who is trustworthy?
I can start off by answering this question. So I think you're asking me, if I had $1.7 billion and I left, who would I choose to replace me? And you're asking, why not get someone who's hungry, who is driven, wants that money. Trust, because nowadays, 2019, you have so much technology, you can outsource a lot of things, hire freelancers for different projects, things like that. I think it really comes down to why did you start the business? Did you start the business to make a lot of money? From what I've learned, not a lot of businesses really breed long-term success if it's just driven based solely on profit. So when I say trustworthy, you really want to give someone the business who understands the vision and the long-term goal. Like for meal prep, are you doing it so you can get as many people as you can, take Edmonton, take Vancouver, take across the country and generate as much revenue? Or are you doing it because you see there's a service that is valued and people actually need this product, and you see, when people get it, it saves them time to spend more time with their family. You see when they lose 20 pounds or gain 10, 15 pounds of muscle, you see that joy, you see that confidence, you see all these things that change in that person. I truly think someone who understands the vision, that's someone who ultimately you trust, who will understand that, they will be more successful than the person who's just doing it solely for profit, because they'll never understand it. They'll never get in the trenches. I feel that person will get in the trenches and they'll give up because they'll say it's too hard, versus a person who's in that same situation, but they understand, I'm doing this because I know it's helping so many people. I'm doing it for a bigger cause than money, and even myself, that's my 2 cents on it.
This actually reminds me of a story that I read about Lululemon. With Lululemon, when Chip Wilson sold off to a board, or I guess brought in a board of directors, the quality of Lululemon came down because all they cared about was money. He was the guy that designed all the fabrics. He was the one that designed all the sewing and everything like that. And the second that they essentially booted him out of the company, you could see where Lululemon was going. They're the most profitable apparel company out there probably right now. But how many girls have had problems with chafing and all the different aspects of the pants now? The R&D has I'd say gone down a little bit. The quality has gone down, and that's result on basically somebody's too hungry for a board of directors being hungry over money instead of the quality and delivering a good product.
So Hi. So how, this is for everybody or anybody, how do you stay true to yourself and keep your vision and on that path, and how do you find people who have that same motivation and hunger for your business?
That's a really good question. I feel like you have to so with my business, right, I started it because this is my life. And I want to help other people, and I want to help them through their dark times when nobody helped me. When you're... Okay, sorry, I just blanked. Repeat your question.
So how do you stay true to your
How do you stay true to your vision?
Yeah.
Right, okay. I've seen lots of other businesses like mine crumble because people lose sight of their vision, and I've seen lots of nonprofits who have great ambition, great vision, and then they start going after the money and you lose sight of your vision. That's something that I never want to happen to my organization, and me and my business partner talk about this all the time, and we talk about it with our staff at all of our staff meetings. Do you believe in your clients? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe that people will walk again? What do you actually believe in your core? Right? How do you think? What drives you? And you have to find the people who keep that in them. And as a boss, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, it's my job to instill that in my staff and to instill it in our volunteers and to instill it in my clients. And I just feel like, like I read my mission and vision statement nearly almost every day because, well, I apply for grants and I apply for a lot of things and you have to write your mission and vision. So I have to copy and paste it a lot anyways. But it's important to always have that in your head, right? You need to know, why did you do this? Why did you start? You want to make money? Yeah, obviously everybody wants to make money, and for a business, whether it be nonprofit or for-profit, you need money in order to keep going. But is that the end-all be-all? No, like you need to really keep in your brain why you started this, and it's really easy to slip on the other side when you start seeing those profits. And like I said, that center in California who turned for-profit, they are now closed, and they were the leaders in spinal cord injury recovery. They were open for over 15 years, had franchises around the world, and now they've all shut down because they turned for-profit.
Bean, can you share with us your vision statement, if that's okay? Or your mission statement?
Yeah, we exist to inspire, motivate, and promote physical recovery through an activity-based training program for people with spinal cord injuries and associated disorders, through education, knowledge, and partnerships.
I love it, 100%.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
I'll build on that one. I think the second part of your question was, how do you surround yourself with those types of teammates? Is that correct?
And your employees, like that, so following the same.
Right. If we all behave in that way, that's in line with our mission and vision regularly, and if we promote it on our website, verbally, in grant applications, and in speaking with people when we're talking about our business, if we truly believe that, it will come through just because I'm being sincere to you, right? And if you feel that same way, you'll connect with me. And you might just remember me, or you might call me later, or you might email me. But if I truly believe it, and you connect with it, you'll remember, because you felt something. And others will feel the same. So, I think it's important to be sincere, and important to share that sincerity with others. And like a magnet, it will draw those types of people towards you. And then, of course, I think Mike used a nice phrase earlier. You said something like, be relentless about letting the others go that don't fit with that type of ethos.
Yeah, I think having, when you figure out whatever your core focus is going to be of your company, and just making sure you sort of stay away from the shiny stuff per se, and make sure that everything that you're doing, whatever service or program you're creating, does it sort of fit into that funnel? Does it still fit with the core focus? Does it still fit with what your sort of vision is 10 years out? And when you're bringing people on, are you hiring based off of what your values actually are? And if you're being genuine about them and creating what they are, and then you're hiring based off of that, then eventually you'll just end up with more and more people that are the right people. I think it's pretty tough probably to get it to 100%, and especially when you start off in the beginning, you're probably going to end up with a lot of people who start with you who aren't with you a few years down the road. But I think if you sort of figure that out and are clear with it, sometimes I think for us especially, it took a few years to kind of figure out what exactly what was the sort of big goal, what was the big picture of all this. and then starting to actually look at the people and seeing, do they fit within what that is, and are we representing those values, and are we hiring off of them, are we firing based off, or developing basing off of those as well, and then sort of eventually I think you just over time phase out the people who don't need to be there, and then have a great group who has fantastic buy-in and really can take that vision way further than you as sort of the leader of the company ever can on your own.
I'd say like believing in what you do is essentially your sales pitch, because like Raj says, like it resonates. People get connected to us. Like with the clothing brand, people glorify certain things, and being an entrepreneur is glorified nowadays too. And for me, like even with the second part of your question there, talking about bringing people in, it's like building a good culture. You walk into Pivotal and everyone there is welcoming. Everyone's got a smile on their face, and it's inviting. And you walk into our warehouse, the same thing too, right? Like that's what we want to build. We have a good group of people who like want to build a solid culture behind RVL. Kenny going into the bar and talking to some juice monkey who's massive and probably punch lights out of him. But actually, no, you fight back. But like that being like connected with people, and I think that's important. Like with a brand, you walk up to anybody wearing RVL, and they're the same kind of thing. Like rarely would you read somebody that wearing RVL that wouldn't be happy to say hello.
I love that. Yeah, just to kind of tee off of what Steve said, imagine the type of environment you want to be able to create in your own household. Why not do the same thing for your business, right? I mean, we tend to kind of separate both, but I'm a big believer, and if you know me really well, I always try to metaphorically relate your personal relationships in your house with your business. And the same thing with everyone who had the chance to speak. Your customers, like Mike said, their family. It almost feels weird to call them a customer. And when you walk into each and every single one of their places, you're walking into their home, right? I come from an Indian background, and I know every single time I walk into my own home or in my aunt's place or uncle's place, it immediately becomes this sense of this selfless service of, oh, have a seat. What would you like to eat? How can we entertain you? Why not do the same thing for your business? Whatever service or product you're giving, you're entertaining. You're making them feel 10 times happier the moment they walk out than when they walked in. And I feel like each and every single one of you do an amazing job of that in your businesses. So it's awesome to see.
I just want to add one more point on that, Mrs. Art. When it comes to your employees, I kind of want to debate with you guys. I don't think your employees will ever be as committed as you are, just because it is your business. But I mean, all the things that you guys mentioned, the value, bringing, a culture, showing them being a leader versus a boss. But I don't think they will ever work as hard as you, just because at the end of the day, it is your business, not their business. And I think you just need to be okay with that, and you need to understand and realize that as well. I wonder what your guys' thoughts are on that. Yeah, of course.
So if you look at companies like WestJet, so they're not employees, they're shareholders. So companies such as WestJet or Apple or I can't think of any off the top of my head, they treat their employees like shareholders, not employees.
I think that's a great program that they do, because now they're not employees anymore. They're essentially part of the business. Personally, for me, if I try and put myself in their shoes as an employee, I would still think of myself as an employee, just because I do have a part of equity now into this company. But if I was to think realistically, I don't think it would be big enough for me to be really considered, like ownership. That's just my opinion on it, if it was in my shoes. But I mean, like I said, promoting a healthy culture and positive culture. But I just think some things you just need to realize, no one's gonna work as hard as you. Because why should they work as hard as you? It's your business, you developed it, you have the vision, you have the passion. I think it would be a little unfair to expect the same type of energy from an employee. But I mean, like I said, like 80%, even 90%, I think that's pretty damn good too.
I would definitely agree to 100%. up until maybe the last few years, because we've been forced to grow to a point where I can't have it be the case anymore where I'm the hardest working person or the most dedicated, because it was literally killing me. It's too much. And what I found the big difference is there was definitely a period of time where I just didn't trust it enough. Like you said, like it's your business, it's your baby, it's hard to let go, it's hard to give people the reins a lot of time, because are they going to do as good of a job, are they going to care as much? But what I found was a big difference maker was when you actually empower them and show that you trust them and give them those reins, it's mind-blowing what they'll do with it a lot of times. I'm now at a point where I'm actively every day, or at least there's a percentage of my time where I'm trying to replace myself. I'm trying to make it so that the business does not need me whatsoever. And I think once that happens, I've done the best job. And we've recently now advanced to having a proper sort of leadership team, and it's a pretty young group, and now I'm handing over large portions of the business to them. And when we got together to sort of assess like what was our vision going to be for the next 10 years, what's going to be for 5 years, and I realized that once I brought them into that conversation, now they were invested into it, and it was their vision now. It wasn't just mine, so there's less of that I'm working for somebody else to help build what they're doing, and now it became that like, no, this is part of my vision too, and I'm building it. And it just blew me away on what their ideas for the future could be for the company, whether that just be the work we're doing in the community or what revenue targets were, or anything like that. And all of a sudden they were invested into it, and it gave me just completely new perspective on it, that yeah, there absolutely is hope, because you're going to hit a glass ceiling at some point. So you need to get that buy-in and that investment from people. And I mean, if you're doing something that means enough to them as well, and it's the right thing for them, then they'll absolutely take it, especially if you want something that's going to be lasting and beyond yourself. So, yeah.
One of the best pieces of advice that I got from before we even opened Ryu, I did a lot of networking, and I met this woman who is in her 80s, has made millions of dollars for lots of different companies, and one thing she said to me is, know when you're done. Keep your ego on the side, and if you can no longer take your company in the direction you want it to go, and if there's somebody else who has better ideas, who has better connections, is able to take your company to that next level, know when to step aside, know when to hand off the reins, and know that your company will succeed. So having your ego checked is always big in me, and like when you enter Ryu, one of our Ryu rules of conduct is leave your ego at the door, because there's no place for that.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. Actually, I agree with you, but I do agree with you somewhat, but I still think, Mrs. Soares is talking about an employee versus employer viewpoint, not okay, my business is where I've taken it to, I found another individual who I think can take it to the next level, let's give that person, a large size of equity, so they would be, intrigued and attracted to grow the business. Because let's be honest, if you told me to work as hard as you, and you were paying me a wage versus, my first thought was like, why should I work as hard as Mike if I'm putting all that extra work and I'm not being rewarded for it, even if I did believe in everything you did. And going back to the point, when I say 90% is still very good as an employee. If you have an employee working 90% of your 100%, I think that's like a A1 employee. I'm talking about when is your employee, going to bed thinking about what he can do to improve your business? Is your employee waking up stressed about, the problems that you guys are having? If you guys can find me those employees, like please let me know, because I would love to hire them. But
I know what you're saying there. I mean, as far as if the employees don't feel like they're being rewarded enough, then obviously there's something wrong with the compensation or whatever is going on there. But I mean, I've got examples of both, where we have employees who have sweat equity and have shares in the company, and others who don't. And I haven't actually noticed that much of a difference between people who have equity and if they don't. I think it's an attitude thing. It's whether people genuinely buy in. You can give people shares, but if they don't genuinely care and want and have the right attitude, I think attitude to me is 90% of it at least. The skills and things can be learned, but if somebody has a shit attitude, like you said, leave the ego at the door, it's going to be a disaster in that sense. And I don't want a situation where anybody who's working, I don't like to say for me, but with me, I resonate, is going home at night stressing about what ways to improve the company, because that sucks, right? Like, I want it to be a situation where maybe I am the only one who's dealing with that, or create a situation where nobody has to sort of deal with that, and more create opportunities for them where they can just really lock in on what it is that they're sort of passionate about, and that within the company, you know, utilizing their skill set, and obviously creating an opportunity for them to be able to move forward and buy into the future of it. You know, we have people who work there who have told me that their goal one day is to be able to buy equity in the company and be a partner. And you know, when you tell them that, yeah, that door can be open, and you sort of show them what sort of future they can work towards, I think it makes a really big difference versus, you know, when you sort of cut it off and treat them just like employees. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more transparent than you want to be, and which is tricky in the beginning when things aren't going super well. You don't want to tell your employees things aren't going very well, because then they're going to maybe lose faith in the company or lose faith in you as a leader. But at some point, you know, if you're a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more transparent, then they feel like they really understand what's going on and have some skin in the game, whether they literally do or not.